Hello there, the wait for patch 11.05 is now over with the launch of World of Warcraft's big 20th anniversary celebration, and I don't think it's unfair to say that it's had a bit of a mixed reception. I'm going to be diving into all the reasons behind that, so do stay tuned. And if that's not enough, we've also had a bit of an announcement from Blizzard about the future. Now, before that, this week got off to a bit of an unusual start with a major in-game protest using Group Finder. The trigger for this protest, from what I could see, was the launch of some summaries of the expected changes to classes in 11.05, which included some fairly significant buffs to Arcane Mage and Frost DK. Now, at first glance, buffs aren't normally a reason for players to be unhappy, and of course, there was a bit more to it. Both of these classes were ones that have been quite noticeably overperforming in Season 1, and there was a widespread consensus that they really did not need another buff. As it turns out, Blizzard came to the same conclusion, and just as the patch released, they announced some equally significant nerfs, explaining that those changes had been intended as quality of life improvements, and that the power jump was an unintended side effect. Unfortunately, this set the tone for the seasonal side of the new patch release, which also included an extensive list of class tweaks and even mini revamps, as these changes appear to have introduced a lot of bugs and balancing issues for many classes. I personally have experienced issues casting Lay on Hands onto allies from a macro, and my Lightsmith weapons bonus now prefers healers. And release day raid night was marred by multiple unexplained disconnects, both for myself and many of the rest of my raid team. Now, I'm most definitely not an expert in class design and balance, but I am very aware of a lot of reports from the people who are experts that the recent hotfix changes for some specs were also reverted in the new release, something that Blizzard have also now confirmed and begun the process of repairing. Now, bugs on the first day of a patch are nothing new, and indeed for Dragonflight we saw quite a few bugs in major new content in many of the patches, but this time around, with the new content side being close to issue 3, albeit not completely, it does appear that the bugs have moved over to the seasonal content instead, and it's fair to say that the affected player base is not impressed. Issues with class balancing have always been a thing in World of Warcraft, but unintentional reverts and bugs certainly don't help, and hopefully the developers are already internally looking to learn whatever lessons they need to learn from the issues around this release, and we can start to see some of the improvements that we've seen elsewhere in the game make its way into the quality of the new patches. The new content for this patch was, of course, the World of Warcraft 20th anniversary celebration, and as befits such a major milestone, the traditional World of Warcraft event got its major makeover, and it's a makeover that's also received a bit of a mixed response from players. For myself, I really like the new anniversary area, which offers a festival design inspired by the Dark Moon Fair and has a bunch of really cool new events. The addition of a new set of world bosses also provides for a nice refresh of what was a bit of an old favourite. I haven't tried the new raid as of the time of recording this, but the addition of vanilla time walking is also a very welcome expansion of the time walking pool, and many of the event rewards are also really nice. The only individual part of the event that was a miss for me was the Codex of Chromie scenario. Billed by Blizzard in its intro as a tour of the opening of the gates of Ahn'Qiraj, I was expecting activities based on the original and perhaps even getting to see the ringing of the Scarab Gong, but instead the event is more of a cross between World Soul Memories and Time Rift with a simple final boss. Now, I don't know about you, but I'm not sure what Kel'Thuzad had to do with the opening of the gates of Ahn'Qiraj. Had the Codex of Chromie been an open world event, perhaps even set out in Silithus, I think it could actually have been pretty decent, albeit nothing special. But wrapped in a 15-man scenario, my reaction was very much a case of, is this it? This feeling is exacerbated by the queue timer. Even as a tank, the timer lasted longer than the event itself. The event requires a full group with 3 tanks and 5 healers, which always means very long queue timers, especially for DPS. The thing is, the difficulty of the event really has nothing that I think needs tanks or healers to be there. Now, I don't know if that lack of difficulty is just a tuning bug or if it was intended, but the combination of long queue times, the shortness of the scenario, and the lack of any rewards beyond a chest and some celebration tokens from the weekly quest means that while it was fun enough first time around, I don't really feel that this has the replayability that I think Blizzard would want from the event scenario. Overall, I cannot escape the feeling that this could have done with a little bit more time cooking in the pre-implementation design oven. And this, to a degree, is the story of the event as a whole. It is packed with interesting, sometimes innovative and even fun little things to do. But for me, those things don't really feel like they are coming together to create a fully cohesive experience. Part of the reason for this is the modern game's Achilles heel, reward design. Many of the activities and events very much feel like things that would work very well as dailies or little grindable things. But instead, the main reward, bronze celebration tokens, is only available from a few weekly quests, most of which are themselves wrappers telling us to go off and do multiple things. The net result is to create a feeling that the activities are quite unrewarding in their own right, and instead start to amount to weekly chores to do. And this is a terrible shame. The developers have clearly put a lot of effort into the activities, and many of them are actually good if you can look past that unrewarding vibe. Ironically, there is an achievement token collector, which in getting 100 tokens will unlock the ability to get more tokens just from doing those activities. At this stage, we don't know what those rewards will look like, but if it is what I hope for, which is where doing things like the Mount Mania event could drop a token or two every time, maybe with a daily first time bonus, I personally think that that could make the event feel a lot better. But that is if we can get over the initial impression for the first few weeks before we unlock that achievement. Gaming is highly subjective and all about the feels, and a bad first impression can irrecoverably taint content. I just hope that that doesn't happen here. I suspect that this reward design is an attempt to address age-old complaints about FOMO and feeling like we have to grind events and multiple alts. But the solution that the developers have landed upon just seems like a massive overcorrection that kinda misses the point of our feedback. I cannot help but think that the introduction of yet more event currencies hasn't helped. Historically, this particular anniversary has been based around Time Warp badges, and I personally think that if this event had still been based around them, perhaps with some achievement gates to deal with the problem of past hoarding of the badges, then things would have landed a lot better than they did. Now, if you've not tried the event and you're thinking that this description feels a bit negative, please don't be put off by it. Gameplay wise, the event is a lot of fun the first few times you do it. My concerns are basically around repeatability and the impact that the reward issues are going to have on it over the longer term. Had this particular event been released, say last year, as just a basic revamp of the regular 2 to 3 week anniversary event, I would probably be hailing it as a success. But for World of Warcraft's 20th birthday, I'm afraid to say that it really doesn't feel big and ambitious enough. Now, just before I move on, I do have a quick reminder. As part of the anniversary event, there's a new Secrets of Azeroth style event, which is due to kick off on Monday the 28th. We don't know what form that will take, but the Secrets of Azeroth event involved a lot of daily quests dropping at around midnight EU or 4 PM US in a global release. As someone who really enjoyed last year's Secrets of Azeroth, I am looking forward to this. And finally, if you want to get the extra 10% buff from the daily anniversary quests but don't have a lot of time to do the activities, then I have a hot tip for you. Head over to the chest that is opposite the pet area and click on it to get a pet mirror and use it to turn into your own pet. All around the anniversary area are little treats, boxes, baskets and balls. Interacting with these as a pet will give you pretty quick progress on the quest bar, all the way to 100%. And this can be done in as little as 5 minutes. The quest is available daily, but only when the 12-hour buff is dropped off, which means that you generally don't need to do it every day unless you're playing the game far too much. Anyways, let's get on to Blizzard's announcement. Back at Gamescom, we were promised a Warcraft Direct event towards the end of the year, and this has now been confirmed by Blizzard as happening on Wednesday the 13th of November at 10 AM PST, that's 7 PM in the EU or 6 PM in the UK. It's worth noting that the Warcraft franchise covers more than just World of Warcraft. It includes Hearthstone and Warcraft Rumble, but also the RTS game. On the World of Warcraft front, I personally suspect that we may actually hear about patch 1107 a little bit sooner than this event. Just last night, Battle.net was updated with a slot for 1107, albeit it isn't live yet. My suspicion is that we may get an announcement on this as early as next week. Instead, I'm expecting that the event will look further ahead, providing details of patch 1110 and maybe even further than that. One minor disappointment from BlizzCon last year was the lack of a 2024 roadmap, which we didn't get until December, but I am hoping that this time around we will get the 2025 version of the roadmap at the event. Another likely announcement is going to be for Classic. As I reported last week, there has been some speculation around new fresh servers for Classic Era, but we have also seen data mine signs of Mist of Pandaria Classic, and I suspect that that may be the headline announcement for the Classic side of the game. I have no doubt that this event will also include something for Hearthstone, but their mention of Warcraft Rumble in their announcement was a mild surprise, given some of the recent news about them scaling back development on the mobile game. But there's also something else. Very recently, the data mining community spotted that one of Blizzard's internal CDNs, that's basically a download stream for Warcraft 3, was updated to a version 2.0. This was very quickly reverted, probably because they realised that we'd noticed, but that would suggest that there is some work being done on Warcraft 3. So does that mean we can expect something for the RTS as well at this event? Well, your guess is as good as mine. One thing that we do know though is that they plan to offer some what they describe as in-game viewership rewards for Hearthstone, Rumble and World of Warcraft. The obvious thought is Twitch drops, but this event is also going to be in YouTube or TikTok, so maybe they will be delivered in some other way. In any event, we're promised some more information on that real soon. And finally, after the event, they plan to rebroadcast the recent 20th anniversary World of Warcraft 20 Years of Music concert, which took place in Switzerland just over a month ago. And if, like me, you're a fan of World of Warcraft's music, it may well be worth clearing a couple of hours out of your calendar on the 13th. Now, as is traditional for a new World of Warcraft patch, there's a new Twitch drop. This time it's another TCG pet, the Sand Scarab. Just head over to your favourite World of Warcraft streamer and watch for 4 hours and you can claim what is basically a free reward. And now I have a little bit of a mystery for you. I recently reported on a mysterious new quest giver in Donegal on the PTR and wondered if it was a sign that we'd be getting some storyline content in the new patch. Sadly, at least for week 1, that's not been the case. But that mysterious NPC has actually gone live. Now called the Dalaran Survivor, it still has its greyed out quest bang above its head, indicating a quest that we're not currently eligible to pick up. So what's going on here? Now this could still be a bug or just related to the new secrets event, but the NPC's appearance really doesn't match the vibe of the event, and I do have another theory. At the start of the expansion we saw the destruction of Dalaran and the apparent loss of Khadgar. Khadgar, as we now know, is a lot harder to get rid of than even Xal'atath expected, managing to return from the dead, albeit not to complete full health. And you know, Dalaran is kind of hard to destroy as well. Back in Warcraft 3, it was razed to the ground by the Scourge, and after its remains were encased in an impenetrable shield for some years, a rebuilt Dalaran was of course revealed at the start of Wrath of the Lich King. We don't really know what was under that shield in vanilla or how fast the Kirin Tor actually managed to rebuild the city. So here's my tinfoil hat theory. Could the Dalaran Survivor be about to kick off a questline to help them get their home back? If Khadgar managed to disenchant and then reconstruct himself, then just maybe he had the time to do the same for the core of Dalaran. Now the wreckage out in the Isle of Dorn clearly shows that not all of the city is intact. So if it was to come back, it's likely to be in a bit of a mess. And who better than Azeroth's greatest heroes to help with the rebuilding? Now, I really love the new city of Donegal, but the idea of having a new Dalaran as an expansion hub is super enticing. Perhaps that's where we're going to end up in Either Midnight, even though I do kind of like the idea of having Silvermoon as a hub. Or maybe it's The Last Titan. But what about all of you? What do you think of this mystery quest giver? I'd also be super interested in hearing your thoughts about the game so far. Are you enjoying the anniversary event? Or do you just want to vent about the seasonal content? Keep it polite, but do let me know in the comments down below. And finally, I don't normally talk about the in-game store beyond subscription offers, as I really don't want to give it publicity, but I am going to make an exception this time around. Folks who wish they were able to get the Brutosaur auction house mount back in BFA now have an alternative. Called the Traders Guilded Brutosaur, it has both an auction house and a mail vendor, and it's yours for a cool $90 in the in-game shop. Yes, you heard that right. Now personally, I don't think it's any of my business what folks spend their money on. In full disclosure, I have used WoW tokens to obtain shop mounts for in-game gold in the past. But dropping something like this at a time where there's player complaints about the level of bugs in the latest release does feel a bit unearned. And if you're a mount collector, then you're in for a very expensive time, as along with this and last week's 12-month sub offer with its 4 mounts, and there's also another new mount bundle announced on the same day, with 4 retail mounts and 4 classic mounts, this time for $25. Add in a likely new bundle for Mop Classic in the near future, and this is all going to mount up. Ultimately, the decision if this is all worth it is a very personal one, but my own stance, as I mentioned last week, is to seriously consider waiting until we see what Blizzard plan to announce in the Warcraft Direct event and until we see the 2025 roadmap. In my view, the more information we have before we make expensive, and this is a very expensive, purchasing decision, the better. And I have a bit of a final thought to leave you with. Given the C-suite executives from big multinationals like Microsoft's obsession with growth, I do have to wonder how much the banking crafting mount is going to cost when they release it next year. Nothing's been announced, but I think we all know what's coming. If you found all of this interesting, fun, or just infuriating, then let me and the YouTube algorithm know by hitting that like icon. I do these weekly news updates every Saturday, and I also produce a ton of guides, opinions, and in-depth previews on a regular basis. To be notified of those, or just to support my channel, then please do hit that subscribe button. That's all for now. Thanks for watching.